So there comes a point when you get tired of checking your inbox while you hope and pray an agent has reached out and finally accepted you into their exclusive publishing world. You realize you don't need anyone's permission to put your work out to the public. When I finished my first novel in the 2000s, it was called Rock Gods of Oct back then. I tried finding an agent and going the traditional publishing route, but it was so depressing and demoralizing that I gave up. I got so many rejections. One publisher even told me to give up writing. So I ended up giving up on not only getting published, I gave up on writing. Please don't be me. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Hearth Writes with Diane Hatz. That's me. This is a space for women in midlife and beyond to rediscover their voice through the written word. Today, we're talking about indie or self-publishing, so you can decide if it's something you'd like to try. So with Rock Gods of Oct, I eventually needed to feel like I'd accomplished something with the book. So in 2008, I just put the novel up on Amazon, and that was actually not long after they started letting authors independently publish their books. So at that time, I had no clue what indie or self-publishing was. So I put the book online and got nothing but crickets, though I did have a physical copy to prove to myself that I was a published author. I might not have sold many copies, but to this day, I know it was the right decision. So fast forward nearly 15 years. Someone I knew from my early writing days contacted me to say she'd found my book online, read it, and then she quit her job as soon as she finished it. Even though the book is fiction and involves aliens and blood vessel explosions, she was inspired to start her own business. You got to read it to understand why someone would think that. I eventually made a huge leap and I went on a personal sabbatical to be a fiction writer. I re-edited and republished that first book as Rock Gods and Messy Monsters. And since then, I've published 2 additional books. All are part of the series called The Mind Monsters. And, to that person that told me to give up writing, I'm sorry if I'm being snarky, but I was first runner-up in science fiction and fantasy at the 2024 Eric Hoffer Award for what was Rock Gods of Ock. So if you're like me and someone has told you you're not good enough, don't believe them. Don't believe them. Don't believe them. You just keep writing. So I'm currently working on the 4th book in my series, and I think it's the final book in the collection. It's going to depend how involved the story gets. So if you're wondering, like, why didn't I go the corporate route with the work that I'm doing or the traditional route? I worked in corporate music for about a decade. My first book is actually Rock Gods. It's actually a satire that takes place in a record company. I also consulted at a Hollywood film company for nearly 2 years. So I know what goes on behind the curtains in the entertainment industry, and it is a bit like The Wizard of Oz. So I realized traditional publishing wasn't for me. You have to give up too much control, and not everyone in the industry cares about you or your work. I mean, I can just give an example from the music industry. I was in a meeting once and my boss was discussing around the boardroom table ways they could rip off artists more because he believed that all musicians should have 2 jobs. And I know I'm biased. I know I carry that with me into the indie world, but it's who I am. Since I've started, as I mentioned, I've released a couple of books. I also started my own publishing imprint called Whole Healthy Group. That makes me both an indie author and an indie publisher. And honestly, it hasn't always been easy. I cried with the first one, made a lot of mistakes, but for me, it was the best choice. If anything, it's helped me reclaim more of my voice than I ever expected. So what about you? Is this the right path for you, or is the traditional route the way to go? I mean, first I want to just comment on indie versus self-publishing. I use the term indie publishing. A lot of people say self-publishing. It's semantics, I guess. It's not to me, but I prefer to say indie publishing because I worked with indie bands in the 90s and they were cool. And I never heard a musician say, I'm a self band. I do self recording. No, it's indie. It's way cooler. The other thing is, it can take a village to publish a book. You can do it all on your own, but there's editors, cover designers, copywriters, there's people you could hire to help you. So saying self is actually an incorrect term because you're not doing it all yourself. That's me. I think the biggest thing for me is self-publishing. That term was looked down upon like in the 80s when traditional publishing was still really the only way to go. If you self-published, people assumed you did vanity publishing, which is when you pay for everything. And then you usually have to buy like $5,000 worth of books. So you have a garage full of books and like no one buying it. And things have changed so much, but there are people in the traditional publishing world who still look down upon self-publishing. So just say indie. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's a very long-winded way of just saying, be cool, honor your work, and call yourself an indie author. So I'll get into these different types of publishing in future videos, but let's talk a little about indie publishing. At the core, indie publishing means that you're in charge of your book. You make all the creative and logistical decisions, which you don't in traditional publishing. You control the process from the first word to the finished product, meaning that you write, edit, format, design the cover, and do all the marketing and distribution yourself. And like I said, that doesn't mean do everything alone. Most indie authors, or many indie authors, hire professional editors and designers, though you can DIY it if you don't have the budget. The important thing is that the vision and the direction of the book stays in your hands. You get to shape what it becomes. Many of them won't even let their authors have a say in the book title or the cover. So when indie publishing, you get to decide what you want to do. You don't have to wait for someone else to give you permission. Oh, yeah. And the other thing, if you care about money, you get like 5 times royalty. You get a much higher royalty rate if you're doing it yourself. So just so you understand the differences, traditional publishing is having your book released through one of the big 5 publishing houses and their imprints. So that's Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Hachette Book Group, and Macmillan Publishers. It's how books were put out to the world until the past 15 or 20 years. A large publisher will pay you in advance, though those advances are getting smaller by the day and some people aren't getting any. They handle the editing, the design, the printing, the distribution, and the marketing. And that means, like I said, you might not have any control over creating your physical book. And, you might be told to edit a character or to change a scene or even to change the direction of the book, which I don't know. I got too many issues to be okay with that. It's then not my work. Royalties are lower. The upside to traditional publishing is that your book can gain a certain type of legitimacy and it benefits from the reach of an established publisher when it's launched. So publishers generally give a book 6 to 8 weeks to start selling. If it doesn't, as most don't, they stop promoting you and move on to the next author on the roster. And then you're still left with all your marketing and promotion work. So you hear of the success stories, but 80, 90, 95% of writers are not the people you hear about. I've heard of authors who are at large traditional publishers who just their contracts were just revoked immediately. And you also, if you go traditional, you have to be very careful about your contract. Does the publishing company own the rights to your book? And if they drop you from the roster, do they retain the rights or do you get them back? I mean, this is all detailed stuff, but there's things that you need to take into account. So if you're thinking about going the indie route, I hope I'm convincing you. I'm going to give you 5 essentials I recommend you having in place because each part will make your book stronger and the process smoother. First, and these first 3 are the 3 most important. The first is a strong manuscript. This is one of the most important parts of your book. Your writing matters, and editing is the most important part of the process. It's where your book comes to life. So for my 3rd book, The Light of Wounds, I went through 16 drafts. That might sound like a lot, but it needed it. So whether you do 5 drafts or 15, take the time to shape your work into something you're proud of. One of the saddest things I see with indie writers is a great concept for a story, but not enough editing. A first draft is not a finished book. Second, a professional book cover. Now, I would argue this is the most important part of your book, honestly, even more than the manuscript, because 80% of all books are sold on Amazon, and all you have is that small little thumbnail of your cover to interest someone. So your cover is not just for decoration, It determines whether a potential reader will click into your page and take a closer look. It should look like it belongs on a shelf next to books from major publishers, and it should also look similar to other books in your writing genre. I don't agree it should be exactly the same because I think you get lost, but it has to be within the general sort of guideline-y feel. So a reader's attracted to it. And there are trends. Different genres of writing have different styles of covers. If you have a limited budget, I would say spend it here. There are companies like 99 Designs where you can get a cover for a reasonable price. And unless you're a trained designer, I highly recommend you go through someone who knows how to design book covers. It's not wise to have your friend who knows Photoshop or InDesign to create a book if they haven't done book covers. AI is another option. Covers are getting better, but I'm going to talk about that briefly in a couple minutes. Amazon will ask you if you've used any AI in your book. Whether or not that affects the algorithm, I don't know, but it's an issue many, many, many authors are grappling with right now. So the third thing that's crucial is your book description, especially on Amazon. People might debate the rank of importance of these three things that I've just discussed, but these are all essential. So you need a well-written and edited book, a professional book cover, and an attention-grabbing book description, especially for Amazon. So I will say I do have AI help me with marketing blurbs. So I do have AI help me with the description for Amazon. I recommend don't just cut and paste. People now know, like, for example, M dashes. For some reason, AI is obsessed with them. So people, when they read anything with an M dash now, they think that you had a computer generated. So AI is a great guide, but you still need to edit that work. And again, I'm of the belief, I'll get into this, like I said, more. I'm of the belief that when we use AI for creativity, it really destroys a part of our brain. And I don't have evidence on this. I just sometimes just feel like when I'm using AI, like I really should be figuring this out. But anyway, you have to sort of pick and choose. Just do me a favor. Do not have AI write your book. Don't. Just please don't. Just it's like the sound of one hand clapping. Are you a writer if you're not writing and you're just punching in a prompt? I say no. So how you get your book to your readers is another story, and you've got a million options. The tried and true way to do this is to get an ISBN through Bowkers. This is what I do. It's called Bowkers, Bowkers. Do not get it through Amazon because they then own the rights. And if you try to go to like Barnes and Noble, you're going to cause yourself problems. So you get your ISBN through Bowkers. Now, if you're only doing an ebook, I don't think they even care as much, except I'd still get an ISBN. I put the print and the ebook on Amazon KDP specifically, but I only distribute to Amazon. I then put the print version up on Ingram Spark for Barnes and Noble and everywhere else. And then I put the ebook up on Draft to Digital so it can get distributed to places like Kobo and libraries. Again, I'll be honest, I've shed many tears ever figuring this out. So just go easy on yourself if this is your first book. There's a learning curve, but you can master it. So you don't need a huge audience, but it's important to have a way to let people know your book exists. So at a minimum, you should start a newsletter. If you don't want to pay for a newsletter service, because some of them, I think like Constant Contact, some of them are really expensive. So just start a Substack. If you don't know Substack, just Google what is Substack. It's free. You can start a newsletter. There were 2 million a couple years ago. There's millions of people on Substack. So it's its own community, but you can also send it out to people on your email list. You would just put them into your Substack. You can also post on social media. You can get editorial reviews. You can be a guest on podcasts, and you can speak at local events. So this all is a huge topic. I'm starting to put together a book to help you with all of this. So stay tuned for that. Indie publishing is like anything new you try. It's going to take a little time to get comfortable with the tools you'll use and the decisions you have to make. So think of it as like learning scales. I never played the piano well, but I took lessons when I was young, and scales I hated them and they sucked, but you just had to do it to practice. It's the same with the book. You need to get some books on how to put a book together, watch YouTube videos and decide for yourself what's best, and just give yourself a lot of leeway. You learn through mistakes, so nothing you do is wrong, and just know whatever you do, you can correct. So if you're looking for resources, what I found most useful, there's an organization called the Alliance for Independent Authors, or Alliance of Independent Authors, ALLI, ally. Join them. That it's really worth it. If you don't want to pay to be a paying member, just I would say bookmark their website and just stay up to date with them. There's also Jane Friedman, David Gogren, and Dave Chesson, who's Kindlepreneur. I found them extremely helpful when I was starting out. So just a quick note on AI. I'll get into this more in other videos, but it's here to stay. If you're a writer and you're still fighting it, great, but AI is not going away. And you are doing yourself a disservice in a sense by not using it to do the things you don't really like. For me, like a one-liner for the whole book, that could take me 6 months. It's not easy to do. AI says that it doesn't share your stuff with anyone. Frankly, I'm so unknown that I just don't think anyone's going to, AI is not going to be like, ooh, let's take her book. But it reassures me over and over. Like I put into the AI, do not share this manuscript with anyone. This is between you and me. And I get the assurances. Okay. So the big thing, more and more people are using AI to write entire books. I don't know why Amazon allows up to 500 books per day to be uploaded by someone. That is ridiculous. I mean, I think a book a day is too much, but that's just me. The market has become extremely flooded. The Authors Guild, if you know who they are, they have started a human authored seal. I'm not sure if it's open to the public yet. I happen to be a member, but you should check it out. And it's individually numbered so they can track it. And it's just a way, I believe that human authored books are going to be like vinyl, and that at some point there'll be a study where they're going to find out that human authored books, oh wow, they're better for the reader's brain. So I would use AI. I don't even use AI for scenes. Like I can't go there. I don't consider myself a writer or creator if I'm using something to help that much, but like editing or I don't know, a blurb for a podcast, or how to market the book. Like AI can be very helpful with that, or what genre is your book in. I mean, that's stuff that could take you years to figure out that AI can help you out with. And that's not, I don't think of that as creative. That's the business side to it. So just so you know, with the whole AI thing, there aren't hard statistics yet, but the estimates are that up to 50% of all indie books published today are written by AI. It's really sad. And I am going to stress that the people who are publishing books that are written by AI, they are not writers. They are people trying to make money. They are not artists. They are not creators. It makes me very angry. It's not going to go away though. So it's a huge problem. So is indie publishing right for you? For me, indie publishing comes down to ownership and being in control. I get to decide when and how my work is published. I have total say with my cover, editing, and the title. So I get to control the story because I don't have that editor or publisher telling me to cut out characters or to cut out scenes or, to change the meaning of the story. I get to write what I want in my quirky voice, and I can release the novels on my own timeline without watering them down to fit someone else's market expectations. It is, I don't want to say it's an uphill battle. It's a long game, is what I'll say. And because of the AI issue, when I started seriously doing this, and this is just 3 years ago, you could break in with like your third or fourth book. Now, just write because you want to write. You might make it, you might make millions, but less people are reading and more books are being shoved onto the market. Wow, that sounds really depressing. I will say this, and with all that knowledge, knowing that, I have to figure out income streams, but I'm not going to stop writing. As a writer, we need to write to write. I need to breathe, I need to eat, and I need to write. So you just got to keep doing it and just be realistic because we're not all going to be Stephen King. You can keep that hope And if that hope keeps you writing, then go for it. But just know that it's not like it was 20 years ago. So indie publishing is about building your own path into the publishing world and walking through it on your own terms. I highly recommend it, but I can't stress enough that it's challenging, especially to start. There is a learning curve, and there are ups and downs to it, and you don't have, someone at the publishing company that you can call up and sort of have a therapy session with. So if you're on the fence about what to do, what I strongly suggest you do is to submit your book to agents for a certain amount of time, say 6 months. Don't go straight to a publisher, especially a large publisher. They will not look at your book. You have to get an agent. The agent goes to the publisher. So you can use a platform like Query Tracker, and you can just start submitting away. Just make sure you give yourself a time limit. I would not go under 6 months because it takes a while to hear back from agents. You could give it a year, you could give it 2 years. Just give yourself X amount of time and, let yourself know you can be flexible. If you decide 3 months in you want to indie publish, then do it. It's totally fine. It's going to take a while. That's the other thing I didn't mention. If you go traditional, it will take years for your book to come out. I would say give yourself X amount of time. If you don't hear back or you don't like what you've heard after that time, then go indie. So have you thought about indie publishing or tried it yourself? I mean, what excites you, or what have I confused you? Let me know in the comments if I've overwhelmed you. Because I'm trying to do this book, the key to me is to make sure it's very direct. There'll be like a worksheet on things that I recommend you do. But it's a big field. It's a big thing. Can't think of the word. There's a lot to learn. Drop your thoughts and comments. Please subscribe. I do videos on writing is healing, and then also indie publishing and marketing, like publishing and marketing. I hope they make sense to you, because I think that because this is geared toward women in midlife who are navigating change, we're looking to rediscover our voice. There's also a healing process, and writing for me has been a very important way for me to heal, but it's not the only way. And there are a lot of different, there's journaling and there's, but there's also getting out for a walk, So I'm trying to do a balance of videos. I've been going back and forth, but I feel like I'm getting there. So thank you. Because if you made it to this point, you're a super fan. Please subscribe, stay in touch. Thank you so much for being here. And there's more to come. Until next time.